want you to imagine, just for a second, that you're driving a car down a really familiar road on your way home.
Okay, yeah, like the standard evening commute.
Exactly. You're just cruising along, maybe listening to music or sort of replaying a conversation you had earlier in the day.
Right, totally zoned out.
Right. And suddenly, the traffic light ahead of you turns red. What actually happens? Your foot instinctively moves from the gas pedal and hits the brake.
Yeah, you don't even think about it.
You don't consciously tell your leg muscles to contract.
Mhm.
You aren't like debating the physics of stopping distance. You just execute the movement.
It's totally automatic.
It is. And then a few moments later, the light turns green and your foot goes right back to the gas. Zero conscious thought. You do this hundreds of times a week.
Which is kind of crazy when you really stop and think about it.
It is, because we all walk around completely convinced that we're the conscious authors of our lives, right? Like we're dictating our daily choices.
Oh, for sure. We love to feel like we're in control.
But here is the paradox we're unpacking today. Anywhere from nearly half to up to 95% of our daily actions are actually entirely unconscious automatic routines.
95%. Wait, really? Because if we are running on autopilot for the vast majority of our waking hours, it begs a pretty unsettling question.
Yeah.
Like who or what is actually flying the plane?
Welcome to the Missing Lessons, where we explain what school never did. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the hidden mechanics of our habits.
Yeah, we're going to decode how these internal autopilots are built so we can make time work for us rather than against us.
Exactly. But before we get into the biological machinery in your head,
If you're enjoying the Missing Lessons, make sure to follow the podcast, leave a rating, and share it with someone who might find it interesting. It helps us create more episodes and reach more curious minds.
so let's look at the engine of this autopilot. Because when you realize that nearly everything you do is automated,
Right, from how you tie your shoes to how you handle a stressful email.
yeah, it sounds almost malicious, like it's some sort of glitch in the matrix. But this isn't a glitch. The brain isn't automating your life to trick you. It's actually doing it to keep you alive.
Conserving energy, right. So our brains are basically just trying to be ultra efficient.
Exactly. To understand why, you have to look at a specific, really ancient region of the brain called the basal ganglia.
The basal ganglia.
Yeah, it's this golf ball-sized lump of tissue right near the center of your skull.
Okay, got it.
Now, the human brain is incredibly greedy. I mean, it makes up about 2% of your body weight, but it consumes roughly 20% of your resting calories.
Wow. 20% is huge.
It's massive. And the most expensive part of that brain to run is the prefrontal cortex. That's the outer layer responsible for, conscious thought, complex decision-making, willpower.
Right, the stuff that makes us feel human.
Yeah. And we often treat willpower like it's a character trait. People will say, oh, I just don't have the willpower to go to the gym, as if it's some sort of moral failing.
Oh, totally. Like, you're just a lazy person.
But willpower is actually a biological limitation.
Yeah.
It's not an unlimited well. It's not a battery you can just recharge by thinking really hard.
So what is it then?
I like to think of it more like cognitive bandwidth on a computer, or like a muscle that fatigues throughout the day.
Oh, that makes sense. Like decision fatigue. Every time you have to make a conscious choice, you're using up that bandwidth.
Exactly. What to wear, what to eat, how to draft that tricky email. You are burning CPU processing power.
Right.
If you had to consciously calculate every single action you took throughout the day, your brain would burn through its glucose supply by like 10:0 a.m.
You'd just be paralyzed.
You would. So because the brain wants to save this mental energy for complex tasks, it relies on the basal ganglia to offload that processing.
And habits are the ultimate cheat code to bypass that decision fatigue.
That's exactly it. The basal ganglia's entire job is to take repeated behaviors and basically hardwire them into neural shortcuts.
So the basal ganglia is essentially running background apps. It takes over the driving, the typing, the morning coffee routine, completely bypassing the conscious mind.
Yes, to save our cognitive bandwidth. And once a routine is chunked like that by the basal ganglia, the neural pathway is physically altered.
Meaning what exactly?
Meaning the neurons wire together so tightly that executing the habit requires almost zero metabolic energy.
Okay, so if it's that efficient, how do these shortcuts actually work in practice?
Well, most people are somewhat familiar with the basic anatomy of a habit loop, right? The three parts.
The cue, the routine, and the reward.
Exactly. The cue is the trigger, like your phone buzzing. The routine is the behavior, checking the screen. And the reward is that positive reinforcement, the little hit of distraction.
Right, the classic loop.
But I want to push past the basics here, because if the brain is just trying to save energy, why is it so agonizingly difficult to break a bad habit?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is. Like, if I consciously decide I want to stop scrolling on my phone, why does my brain fight me on it so hard?
Wait, yeah, if you want to stop a bad habit, you can't just fight the craving.
No, you really can't. And this is where the underlying neurochemistry gets genuinely fascinating.
Mhm.
Most people think dopamine is just the chemical of pleasure.
Right, like you get a spike of dopamine after you check your phone or after you eat the junk food.
Exactly. And when a habit is first forming, that is true. The reward causes the dopamine spike. But once the basal ganglia has fully hardwired the habit, the chemistry shifts.
Shifts how?
The dopamine spike actually moves forward in time. It no longer fires when you get the reward. It fires the moment you perceive the cue.
Wait, really? So the moment my phone buzzes before I even touch it, my brain is already flooded with dopamine.
Yes. And that early dopamine spike creates an intense craving. It creates this massive sense of anticipation. And if you don't follow through with the routine, that anticipation turns into actual neurological discomfort. Your brain is essentially screaming at you, I predicted a reward, I released the chemicals for it, now give it to me.
So that explains why just trying to resist a bad habit using willpower almost always fails.
You're bringing a knife to a gunfight. You are using your fragile, easily exhausted prefrontal cortex to fight against a massive neurochemical flood that's already happening.
Right, the neural pathway has already been paved.
Think of it like water carving a canyon through solid rock. At first, it's just a trickle. But over years, the water carves a deep, massive trench.
And you can't just stand in front of it and hold the water back with your bare hands. The current's too strong.
Exactly. That's what relying on willpower is like. The rule for hacking this loop is that you cannot simply destroy a bad habit by resisting the cue.
So you don't fight the craving, you just swap out what you do in the middle.
That is the most effective strategy. You keep the original trigger. You keep the original reward. But you replace the intervening routine.
Okay, so if we trace that out, let's say my cue is feeling stressed at 4:00 p.m. at work, and my historical routine is going to the vending machine for a bag of chips.
Right. And the reward is a temporary distraction and a feeling of relief.
So because the dopamine has already spiked at 4 p.m. when the stress hits, I can't just tell myself, don't eat the chips. The craving is already there.
You have to acknowledge the stress cue, and you still need that relief reward. But you swap the routine to something else.
Like walking outside for 10 minutes or doing a quick breathing exercise.
Right. You are hijacking the existing canyon, but slightly altering the final destination of the water. Over time, the basal ganglia learns that the new routine delivers the same reward, and it automates the new pathway.
But practically speaking, since we know we need to replace routines, how do we actually install new ones without failing? Because we've all been there on January 1st, right?
Oh, the New Year's resolutions.
Yeah, we dig a new trench for about 3 days, and then we completely collapse back into our old canyons. How do we apply this so it sticks?
This is where we have to fundamentally shift how we view success. There is a core philosophy here. People do not rise to the level of their goals. Instead, they fall to the level of their systems.
Goals versus systems. That's a huge distinction.
It is. Goals are about the results you want to achieve. Systems are about the daily processes that lead to those results.
Right, because every 18-year-old is told to set big goals, get straight A's, get the dream job, get fit.
But the goal is essentially meaningless when it comes to human behavior. Think about it. Every Olympian wants to win the gold medal.
Yeah, the winners and the losers have the exact same goal.
Exactly. What separates them isn't the desire, it's the system of habits they run every single day. So to make a positive routine stick, there are basically 4 rules.
Okay, where are they?
Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying.
How does making it easy actually look in the real world, though?
It's all about manipulating friction. The brain is constantly calculating the caloric cost of an action. If the friction, the effort required to start is too high, the prefrontal cortex just gives up.
Yeah, so you have to make the good behavior obvious and incredibly easy.
Yeah. You want to read more? Don't leave the book on a shelf in the other room.
Right.
Make it obvious. Leave it directly on your pillow so you physically have to move it to go to sleep.
Oh, that's smart.
Make it attractive by pairing a morning breathing exercise with your favorite coffee. Make it easy by starting with just 1 paragraph of reading instead of 10 minutes.
And make it satisfying by using like a habit tracker to check it off.
Exactly. But I know people push back on the idea of making things easy. Because the habits that actually matter, exercising, learning a language, they're inherently difficult.
Yeah, they require massive effort. We're so conditioned by this go big or go home hustle culture.
But go big or go home is terrible advice for habit formation. It ignores neurobiology.
Mm.
Let's use the gym analogy. Let's say your baseline habit.
Pretty common autopilot routine.
Right. And then you suddenly decide you're going to force a 2-hour intense gym session every single evening,
Which is just relying on pure motivation.
which works for about 3 days. By Thursday, your willpower is drained, the friction of a 2-hour workout is too high, and you default back to the couch.
So how do you actually build it?
You start absurdly small. You use the 2-minute rule. Your only system for the first 2 weeks should be put on your gym shoes, drive to the gym, walk inside, exercise for just 10 minutes, and then leave.
But walking into a gym for 10 minutes isn't going to get you in shape.
No, but in those first 2 weeks, you aren't trying to get in shape. You are building the loop first. You're establishing the neural pathway.
You're proving to your basal ganglia that the routine is safe and requires very little energy.
Exactly. You cannot optimize a habit that doesn't exist yet. Once the shortcut is built, once walking through the gym doors becomes automatic, expanding from 10 minutes to 30 minutes is easy because the friction of initiation is gone.
That completely flips the script. And it really translates to everyday life, too.
Oh, completely.
Like, brushing your teeth for 2 minutes seems insignificant today, but over years, it prevents massive dental bills. Or saving just $10 a week.
Yes. Saving $10 a week feels totally trivial when you're 20. But the system of automatically moving that money builds the neural pathway of being a saver. Over a decade, it transforms your finances.
It transforms everything. But what about, deeper things? Can this apply to intense personal barriers?
It absolutely can. And there's a really powerful example of this when you look at how people overcome severe speech impediments, like stuttering.
Oh, wow. How does that connect to habits?
Well, when someone struggles with a stutter, the habit loop wired into their brain is incredibly intense. The cue is the social pressure of having to speak.
Right.
The routine is usually physical tension, holding their breath, or just avoiding the conversation entirely. And the reward, paradoxically, is the temporary safety from embarrassment when they give up.
That sounds like a vicious, self-reinforcing cycle. How do you even begin to redirect a canyon that deep?
People build speech confidence not overnight, but through micro habits. It's tiny, deliberate choices to break the panic cycle in the moment.
Like what?
It might mean choosing a phone call over a text message, just to trigger the cue on purpose, or practicing intentional, deep, costal breathing in the morning to train the nervous system.
Just tiny little adjustments.
Yeah, or even intentionally exaggerating a feared word until it becomes boring. It's slow, agonizing work at first. But by repeatedly choosing the new routine of pausing and breathing, rather than the old routine of tensing, they dig a new trench.
So small wins don't just change our schedule, they literally change our self-image.
This is the deepest layer of the puzzle, the voting system of identity.
The voting system.
Yeah, it's the profound concept that every single action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become.
We usually think about this backward, don't we? We think we need to change our beliefs first to change our actions.
All right, we tell ourselves, I need to feel like a confident speaker, and then I will speak up.
Or I need to feel like an athlete, and then I'll go to the gym.
But the reality is the exact opposite. The action precedes the belief. Your brain is constantly monitoring your physical behavior and updating its internal narrative to match.
So every time you choose to pause, breathe, or do that 10-minute workout, you cast a vote for a new identity.
Yes, and if you cast enough votes, the evidence becomes undeniable. Eventually, you stop being someone who wants to be healthy, and you just become someone who goes to the gym.
The micro habits are the evidence that convinces your own brain to change its identity.
Exactly. And I want to ask the listener directly right now, have you ever noticed this in your own life? Think about a time you consistently did something incredibly small, day after day, and suddenly realized you had become a completely different person.
It's a pretty wild realization when it happens.
Which explanation do you find most convincing for why we change? Is it the massive, dramatic turning points or the invisible, tiny daily votes? If you've experienced this kind of identity shift through small actions, definitely drop a like and a comment on the video to let us know.
It really makes you rethink how we evolve.
It does. And if we zoom out to the macro level, it highlights why this matters for your entire life. Habits themselves are completely neutral.
Right, your basal ganglia doesn't have a moral compass.
It doesn't care if a routine is helping you or hurting you, it just executes the code. But time is a multiplier.
Time takes whatever habits you give it and magnifies them.
Exactly. If you hit the snooze button, eat junk food, and avoid difficult things, time will compound those bad habits into severe long-term consequences.
But if you read 10 minutes a day, time compounds that into massive transformations.
Which is why my direct advice to the 16 to 25-year-old listener out there is this. To become healthier, wealthier, or more confident, stop focusing on massive overnight changes.
Yeah, we live in an era that worships the viral moment, the sudden transformation.
But that's an illusion. Use the power of time. Start so small it feels almost ridiculous, but do it every single day. Let the hidden power of compounding do the heavy lifting for you.
What would you do in that situation? Would you rather rely on fleeting motivation or build an automatic system that works while you're barely trying?
It's a no-brainer once you understand the biology.
Here's a question for you. What's one small, tiny habit you could start this week that your future self will thank you for? Is it leaving a book on your pillow? Taking one deep breath before a call? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.
To summarize all this, the brain automates our lives to save energy through the cue routine reward loop. And by changing the routine and making it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying, we can cast votes for our future identity.
It's all about reprogramming the machine.
Greatness is rarely born in one grand gesture or a massive overnight success. It is built quietly, steadily, and automatically in the tiny choices you make every single day.
It really makes you wonder about free will, honestly.
It really does. If our choices are just compounded habits, maybe true freedom is just the discipline of choosing which habits get to program us.
That's a lot to chew on.
If you enjoyed this episode of The Missing Lessons, don't forget to follow the podcast, leave a rating, and share it with a friend. Your support helps us continue exploring the topics school never taught us.